Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 2, the cow, from verses 70 all the way to 76. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge to God from the cursed devil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful. قالوا ادعوا لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي إن البقرة تشابه علينا وإن إن شاء الله لمهتدون. They said, invoke your Lord for us to clarify to us what it is. Indeed, the cattle look alike for us, and if God wills, we will be guided. قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا ذلول تثير الأرض ولا تسقي الحرث مسلمة لا شية فيها قالوا الآن جئت بالحق فذبحوها وما كادوا يفعلون. He said, indeed, he says that it is a cow which does not docilely agitate in the land nor irrigate the cultivation, peaceful without any defects on her. They said, now you have brought the truth. So they slaughtered her and could hardly do it. وإذ قتلتم نفسا فادارأتم فيها والله مخرج ما كنتم تكتمون. And when you killed someone and deceived about it, and God brought forth what you were concealing. فقلنا ضربوه ببعضها كذلك يحيي الله الموتى ويريكم آياته لعلكم تعقلون. So we said, strike him with a part of it. Thus God revived the dead and showed you his signs so that you might reason. ثم قست قلوبكم من بعد ذلك فهي كالحجارة أو أشد قساوة وإن من الحجارة لما يتفجر منه الأنهار وإن منها لما يشقق فيخرج منه الماء وإن منها لما يهبط من خشية الله وما الله بغافل عما تعملون. Then your hearts hardened after that and became like stones or stronger in hardness. For indeed, among stones are some of which rivers gush forth, and indeed among them are some that split and water comes out of them, and indeed among them are some that fall down from fear of God, and God is not heedless of what you do. أفتطمعون أن يؤمنوا لكم وقد كان فريق منهم يسمعون كلام الله ثم يحرفونه من بعد ما عقلوه وهم يعلمون. And you then desiring that they would believe you, while a group among them had already been hearing the word of God, and then distort it after what they had understood of it while they know. وإذا لقوا الذين آمنوا قالوا آمنا وإذا خلا بعضهم إلى بعض قالوا أتحدثونهم بما فتح الله عليكم ليحاجوكم به عند ربكم أفلا تعقلون. And when they met those who believed, they say, we have believed. But when some of them retreat to others, they say, will you talk to them about what God has disclosed to you so that they can argue with you about it in front of your Lord? Will you then not reason? Sadaqallahu al-Azim. The God said the truth. So this is also a continuation of what was happening between Moses and the children of Israel. And in the last few verses, the last, I believe, 3 verses, God was addressing the believers here, the people who are believing in the Quran. But last episode, we were talking about how Moses ordered them, because God ordered Moses to order them to sacrifice a cow. And instead of just going and taking a cow and sacrificing it, they started to have this back and forth with Moses. And every time they asked a question, the cow became a lot more specific. The cow became a lot more nuanced. And it became such a beautiful cow by the end of their questioning that it felt like they didn't even want to do it. Because here it says, فَذَبَحُوهَا وَمَا كَادُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. Now, you have, so they slaughtered her and could hardly do it. Another way of translating it is that they not even wanted to do it. Like they were about to not do it. So they asked all these questions. And when you're asking a lot of questions, when God is revealing to you an idea, and I think this is going to be the core topic of this episode, is you as a believer, you need to take some initiative. Initiative is something very important as a believer and as a human being. Sometimes you have the task that is set out in front of you because someone told you you have to do A, B, and C. And when you see D, you have to do A, B, and C. And then you wait sometimes for you when you see D, instead of doing A, B, and C, you're waited until whoever's in charge or whoever's giving you instructions to be like, okay, it's time for you to do A, B, and C. This is something that is very prevalent in humanity, where people are always needed to be told what to do. But the people who show initiative, those are the people where people look around and gather around because, you know what, this guy is taking steps when nobody told him to do it. But these steps are accurate because the truth and what needs to be done, you really don't need to be told to do it. Yes, sometimes things that are a little bit more technical, you might need to be shown how to do it. But as soon as you learn how to do it and you start learning experience, you need to start doing it on your own. For example, if you see a fight happening, you need to take the initiative to get activated and to go try to let the problem go. Instead of waiting for somebody being like, hey, you know what, let's go try to break this fight up. You should be the one going, let's try to break this fight up. Let's try to clean this place. Let's try to do this. And sometimes you don't need to tell anybody and just go ahead and do it. God ordered you to cut a cow. Go grab a cow and cut it. You asking so many questions, it's going to put you in a predicament where it is, as I said, it's going to be so nuanced where you might get even more confused when the instructions were very clear from the get-go. God knows that they're going to ask them 100 questions, but the 3 questions or 4 questions that they asked, it's 3 questions, I believe. But God ordered them at the beginning, just cut a cow. And then they said, oh, well, which one? Like, they all look the same. Well, not an old one, not a young one in the middle. Do it as God has ordered you. This is what Moses said. Like, do what God has ordered you. And then they kept asking questions. They kept asking questions until it became very difficult to them. So this goes back to the conversation that we were having yesterday. When God is telling you pray, if you're going to start asking questions how to pray, well, it's kind of obvious how you pray. And there are some things that are answered in the Quran. But if you're going to make it so nuanced, well, here's the problem. I'm not adhering to what you're telling me as a prayer. And you're telling me that this is a must and it's a requirement because your people ask so many questions, and that if you don't raise your finger in a certain way and if you don't twirl it, that it's not going to be accepted. But guess what? On the day of judgment, that's applying to you because you said that. But it's not applying to me because it's not truth. You upholding a standard that is not truth is going to be just on you. Because you're the one who wanted that standard, and you're the one who set that standard, and you're the one who committed to it. And if God accepted it from you, and every time you don't do it, you're the one who committed. Why are you committing to more than you can chew? So aside from just taking the initiative to get activating and doing what needs to be done, if you're fixing somebody's car and you see a little bit, something that can be fixed, you should go ahead and fix it if it's concerning safety. Of course, if it has a price, then you should also take the initiative and call the person and say like, hey man, there's a problem with your brakes. I highly recommend for you to change it. And if it's a problem with money, I will cut you a good enough deal because your safety is more important to me than me making money. But guess what? The next time the person has a problem with his car, he's coming to you because you're being honest and you're being upfront with the way you're handling yourself. His safety, and this should be true. This is not lip service. His safety should be a concern to you, especially if you're dealing with his vehicle, especially if you know he has a family. You should be out and like making enough for you to survive, but it shouldn't be about the money. If you need to help somebody and it costs you a little bit of your profit or even cost you a little bit from your pocket right now, you're going to get your reward later. That's the whole point of serving the community, serving your family, serving the people around you, and serving your neighbor. So whatever job you have, don't wait until like someone asks you a question. Even if you're a person just working in a department store and you see somebody just walking around looking a little confused, sir, how can I help you? With a smile on your face. Why? Because that person's going to be appreciative of you taking the initiative to help them. He's going to have good feelings. He's going to have good experience, and that you will find on the day of judgment. You're not doing it just for him, or you're not doing it for people to say, oh, this guy's working hard, or you're making us look bad. Your coworkers. It is things that improve you on the day of judgment. Now, see, after After they asked so many questions and then they failed in a sense where God showed them another miracle. They killed a man, they murdered a man, and they started trying to hide. And this is one of the themes of this page, is they keep trying to hide from people as if God doesn't know. And God is constantly reminding them like, hey, you might not be honest with people, but you can't lie to me. Whatever you're concealing in your head, I know it. So don't hide from me, and I'm going to prove it to you. You killed this person, you all acting like you didn't kill it, and everyone's asking questions, who killed this man? Here, this man is alive. He's going to point out the murder. And what happened to the children of Israel at that point? They became upset. Like, hey, this is not fair. Like, how are we going to get away with this? And God compared their hearts to stone. I remember earlier in chapter 2, God says, beware of the fire. That is, its fuel is humans and stones. Now, one way you can understand this is if somebody is becoming very vile, they lose something that is very important for a human, which is empathy. As you can see what's going on in the world today, there's thousands of children dying in a very short time period. And yet people are talking as if, well, it doesn't matter, it's just civilian casualties. That person's heart is a stone. That person, he does not have a heart. It is a stone, and it's very rough and hard and cold. And he lost his sense of humanity. He lost his sense of empathy. Don't let that happen to you. Don't let whatever circumstances that are happening in front of you harden your heart. And the thing that allows you to keep your heart soft and empathetic is the memory of your God, is the remembrance of your God. The remembrance of God reminds you of these concepts that keep you wanting to feel empathetic to people. Yes, some people are not worthy of empathy, so those people you forget because they chose to do that. It's not about you being numb to them. It's about you trying not to interact with them because they hurt you. And I'm talking about the atheists and the disbelievers. But as soon as they start taking steps into making, correcting things, either in their religion and their view of God, or trying to make this world a better place, you should not be a rough person to them. Even if it's an enemy, as God says later in the Quran, you should treat them as your best friend. Because at that point, you can soften each other's heart. Now, the cool thing about the heart parable that God put here, some hearts, a word can, because of God, a word can make rivers gush through those hearts. So it can break those stones, and then all that love and compassion like a river will be flowing through you. And others where it kind of cuts and then you start getting a little bit of love, right? And then the ones that want to stay as a rock, no matter what, they're going to fear God. Because if you, as a person who is serving God under the mindset that God has bestowed you upon, in a collective where it sounds like almost like a hive mentality, where you're part of the system, where you're representing God, you will strike fear in your enemies. You will strike fear in those devils and those people who want to cause problems in your community. Because a single word from them, they could see how stern and how passionate and how empathetic you are for the people around you. And the people around you respect you so much that when the other person bothers you and insults you, the really good people are looking at them like, hey, you know what, you're stepping out of line. So automatically, you being in that collective, in that hive mentality, when you're under God's umbrella, you will be able to strike fear into the people who are trying to hurt you. And that is something that is amazing, because it's not you striking that fear. It is your respect, your relationship, and your remembrance and your honoring of God. That relationship is striking the fear in that person subconsciously without him seeing it. Because the look in your eye is different than the look in his eye. Your eye is set. Your eye is confident. You have an eye where the other person sees that this person knows his stuff. So people tend to step away. They try not to step up. And these are the people who have a heart that is so solid that is just going to stay a rock, but has no problem falling when God reveals himself through a person or reveals himself in their nature very quickly. They just run, scatter like roaches. Now, the last little bit, you know, there is something wrong with the children of Israel, and there's a lot of other people that do it. Remember, a lot of Arabs are children of Israel. A lot of children of Israel are all over the world, and there's a lot of people in the Middle East that are children of Israel and suffer from this. They play with the words. Okay, so like I am telling you about some words, about something that can affect you. So they will go change the words and context so it's not revealing what really was said, but they're kind of revealing it, but changing what is being said. So for example, it's like, okay, I have a store that is on an avenue, okay? An avenue of a street, and that store is my store. And if I have people going on that avenue, I'm more likely to make more sales. Unless say there was a command like, hey, you need to get to a certain destination and you have to take whatever road or street or avenue you find, that's just get to the destination. So a person who is a little wicked, it's like, well, you know what, if they have to go through a path, might as well have them go through my path so that I would be making money. So, God told us to get to the destination and to take any avenue you find. See, I'm playing with the words because I'm playing with the words for me to benefit or to hide some information. And a key, God is giving you an attribute that if you notice it, then you understand that this is what this person is doing. Because they might be telling you what they tell each other. Where it's like, hey, like, oh, here's a group of believers. Yeah, of course we're believers. We believe with you. We understand what you're saying, right? But then when that believer leaves, that person who's saying he's a believer, he can turn to you and be like, hey man, those topics, like the things about the interest and, you shouldn't I know we shouldn't be taking loans from the bank on interest for a house, but don't bring that up in front of them. Because if they don't know, then they're not in trouble in the day of judgment, right? And I'm not the one who's causing them a problem because they're ignorant, right? So if you don't tell them, it's okay. It's just hide the information. It's just so that there wouldn't be a problem and we don't lose money. You see what I'm saying? So they want to conceal and hide information is because they're banking on the person's ignorance. As long as the person's ignorant, I'm not going to get in trouble on the day of judgment because how did he know? And if I'm going to keep telling them the secrets of what not to do, when it's not secrets, it's supposed to be revealed, then I can just keep banking money and I can keep banking my way without me getting in trouble on the day of judgment. Isn't that a crazy mentality? But there are people like that. There are people who want to conceal parts of the book so that they could carry on doing what they're doing. So, and if the more people are having discussions about, well, hey, if a group of people who are leaders in the world, if they want to ally with the enemies of God, are they still Muslim? Well, there's verses that say that they're not. That if you're going to ally with the enemies of God, you are among them. So you are also an enemy of God. But no, we're going to still call them Muslims and we're still going to take them as our leaders, which is inappropriate. But hey, don't open this up to the public and don't talk to the believers about these topics because then they're going to have to debate us in front of our Lord. And then we're going to have to say the truth. See what I'm saying? So don't ever bank on someone's ignorance. If you know somebody doesn't know something that is from the book, tell it to him. Yeah, taking a loan from the bank on interest is not something that you should be doing. But the book does say that the people collecting the interest, those are the criminals. If you're forced to pay interest, you're not the criminal, right? But you should avoid those transactions and you should avoid those systems so that you don't support those people who are banking off interest. If you can somehow borrow money out of somebody and pay him back over time and you have an agreement written how God reveals to us on how to take loans between each other, that's beneficial for you. But if you want to buy a house and you have absolutely no, well, you will always have options. But if you're the one option that makes it very convenient for you to have the house is on a loan, remember, you're not the one in trouble. It's the person collecting the interest who's in trouble. The one who is oppressing you, he's the one in trouble. But try to avoid such systems. And guys, the important thing is, and the thing that will put you aside from everyone else in the world. Like, you know how when you see people feeding hungry people, they will take a picture of them or a video and that gets put on the internet and that, oh wow, like look at this person feeding the homeless. Because it's something that is rare when it's supposed to be the norm. This is what a human should be doing. It shouldn't be an exciting thing to put on social media, but because it's so lacking in humanity. One other important factor that is lacking, which will make this world a lot better place, is initiative. Take the initiative. If you see something that needs to be done, don't pretend like you didn't see it. If you see something where something needs to be said politely, take the initiative. Don't act like you didn't, that you know what, someone else will tell them, or someone else will deal with it, or I don't have to do it. Because not everything is for money and reward in the world here. The reward is coming. And the reward is here in the world. It makes you a better human being. And it puts you aside from everyone else. People will appreciate your presence. People will appreciate your leadership. And you will end up making the world better because other people will notice. I will give you a personal example. When I was in Saudi Arabia last, there was a really bad thunderstorm. And the whole area flooded. And people just they don't think too much, so they try to keep driving, and they literally get like their car turns off because it got flooded. But there was so much water on the street because of the system getting blocked up, and the water was to a point where you could push a car sideways instead of on its wheel because it's literally floating, right? So I seen at the beginning of the thunderstorm, I seen a car get stuck. Everyone's sitting there watching with their phones and everything. But something in my head, so I noticed the car from my window. I started praying, and something in my heart saying like, you know what? I'll finish this few minutes of prayer. I'll go check if he's still there. I'm gonna go help him, even though I wanted to help him right now. But I was prioritizing my prayer. So I finished more of my prayer. I look outside of my window. He's still there. I went got the worst pants that I have, the worst shirt, and I went outside. I told him to stay in his car, and I pushed his car. At the beginning, people were laughing, like, who's this guy? The water was like up to here. Like, you got to understand. Like, I just walked in the street, in the water, in the showers that was coming down, and I pushed the car. I pushed the first car. The person was very ecstatic that his car went back on the land, that he was out of this trouble that he was in. I wasn't looking for his thing. I was working with my Lord. I needed to step in. I pushed the second car. By the time I pushed the second car, there's 6 or 7 other kids now pushing cars with me, helping me, because they realized, they were like, you know what? This guy is getting a reward. He's working for his Lord. He looks, well, because of the beard, he's a sheikh. Let's go help him. I spent 3 hours pushing cars, and there was only maybe 2 or 3 other individuals that kept pushing cars with me. And at the end of the thing, it got to a point where like the people who were taking photos or pictures, they felt embarrassed. Because they were like, oh, well, this is the volunteer that's been sitting here for 3 hours, and look at me, I've been doing nothing. I'm still dry. Because that's what happens when you really put the verses of God to use. The water is not going to melt. It'll make you melt. Who cares if people are making fun of you? Who cares if people are going to take photos? It's not about them. On the day of judgment, they're going to wish that they were in your position helping their fellow man. Because the fellow man who is being helped, he's going to get a sense of reliefment. He's going to be like, wow, that really helped. I was in a lot of trouble. That sense of relief when someone goes, you're taking a part of it. That is some form of purifications for you. There's that sense of, things worked out. Because this man helped me. You're taking part of it. And all you have to do is someone tells you, I didn't help you. Your God did. He just used me to help you. And then you still are taking that purification. Take the initiative. Make this world a better place. With that said, peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.